sunrise promises. February arrived with unexpected warmth, as if spring were impatient to begin. Olivia's studio apartment had transformed over the months, walls adorned with her paintings, shelves filled with new books, and signs of Nate's frequent presence scattered throughout. A spare guitar pick on the coffee table, his favorite tea in the cupboard, the extra toothbrush in her bathroom. They hadn't officially moved in together, maintaining their separate spaces while gradually weaving their lives into a shared tapestry. The arrangement felt natural, giving their relationship room to breathe and grow at its own pace. Olivia stood at her easel, adding finishing touches to her newest painting, a commission for the purple, Iris. Iris had spotted one of Olivia's works during a visit and immediately requested a piece for the cafe's main wall. Their finished painting depicted the cafe at dawn, the building's distinctive purple exterior glowing in the first light of day. Olivia had filled the windows with warm golden illumination, suggesting the comfort waiting inside. Her phone chimed with a message from Nate. "All set for tomorrow? Nervous?" She smiled as she typed her reply. Tomorrow marked the opening of a small exhibition featuring her work at a local gallery, an opportunity that had arisen when one of her firm's clients had seen her paintings during a home visit. Terrified. But the good kind of terrified, she responded. Later that evening, as they walked along the riverfront after dinner, Nate seemed unusually quiet. They stopped at a viewing platform overlooking the water, the city lights reflecting in rippling patterns on the surface. "Remember the first time we were here?" he asked, leaning against the railing beside her. "At the farmer's market?" "The famous apple cider donuts," Olivia smiled, leaning into him as he wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Worth every calorie." "I knew that day," he said, his voice soft but certain. "I knew you were going to be important in my life." Olivia turned to face him, struck by the intensity in his expression. "Even though I was clearly still healing from everything with Julian?" "Especially because of that," he replied. "The way you were rebuilding yourself piece by piece with such determination. I admired your strength from the beginning." He took both her hands in his thumbs brushing over her knuckles. "These past 5 months have been the most meaningful of my life, Olivia. You've shown me what partnership really means. Not losing yourself in another person, but growing alongside them." Olivia's heart raced as Nate reached into his pocket and pulled out a small wooden box. But instead of dropping to one knee as she half expected, he simply opened it to reveal a delicate silver key. "This isn't a proposal." "Not yet," he clarified with a gentle smile. "I think we both value building our foundation carefully. But I wanted to ask if you'd consider making a home with me. I found a 2-bedroom apartment in Riverside with enough space for your painting studio and my music room. A place that could be ours from the beginning, with no ghosts or histories." Tears welled in Olivia's eyes as she looked at the key, glinting in the moonlight. "You want us to live together?" "I want us to build something real together," he amended. "Something honest and enduring. No pressure, no timelines, just us, creating our story day by day." Olivia thought of the journey that had brought her here. From the shattered night she'd discovered Julian's betrayal to this moment of quiet promise. She'd walked away from what she thought was her future and inadvertently walked toward something far more authentic. "Yes," she said, closing her hand around the key. "I'd love that." The following evening, the small gallery buzzed with conversation as visitors moved between Olivia's displayed works. Her colleagues from the architectural firm mingled with Nate's musician friends, while Iris held court near the refreshments, proudly telling anyone who would listen about discovering Olivia's talent. Halfway through the evening, Olivia stepped outside for a moment of quiet, overwhelmed by the positive response to her art. Nate followed, bringing her a glass of champagne. "To new beginnings," he toasted, clinking his glass against hers. "And honest endings," she added, thinking of how her painful departure from Julian had ultimately led her here. "They're equally important, I think." As they stood together beneath the star-filled sky, Olivia marveled at how differently her life had unfolded than she'd planned. 6 months ago, she'd been packing boxes for a future that was built on illusions. Now she was preparing to unpack in a home founded on truth. Ready to go back in? Nate asked, nodding toward the gallery door. Olivia looked at him, this kind, honest man who had entered her life when she least expected it and who had never once asked her to be anything but herself. She leaned forward and kissed him, pouring all her gratitude and love into the gesture. "I'm ready for everything," she said, taking his hand and stepping back into the warm light of the gallery, toward the future they would create together, one honest day at a time. The next morning, they stood in the empty apartment that would soon become their shared home. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, painting patterns across the hardwood floors. Nate pulled Olivia close, his arms encircling her waist as they surveyed the blank canvas before them. "What do you see?" he asked, resting his chin on her shoulder. Olivia smiled, leaning back into his embrace. "Possibilities," she answered. "Nothing but beautiful possibilities." The silent withdrawal. Sophie Chen smoothed her scrubs as she walked through the sliding doors of Memorial Hospital. The night shift had been grueling, 3 emergency admissions and a code blue that had everyone on edge. All she wanted now was to collapse into bed beside Julian and sleep until her alarm forced her back to reality. At 32, Sophie had built a life that looked perfect on paper. A respected nurse at one of Denver's best hospitals, married to Julian Mercer, a charismatic marketing executive with a smile that could charm anyone. They had been saving for 5 years, every bonus, every extra shift, all for their dream of opening a wellness center that combined Sophie's medical knowledge with Julian's business acumen. "Chen, you heading out?" Dr. Patel called from the nurse's station. "You look dead on your feet." Sophie managed a tired smile. 3 12-hour shifts in a row will do that to you. Go home. That's an order. Home was a modest townhouse in a neighborhood they had chosen for its proximity to good schools. Sophie and Julian didn't have children yet, but they had planned for them, another reason they'd been so disciplined about saving. The house was quiet when she entered. Julian's jacket hung on the hook by the door, his keys in the ceramic bowl Sophie had made during a pottery class they'd taken together last year. She found him in the kitchen, his laptop open, empty coffee mug beside it. "Hey," she said, dropping her bag on the counter. "I'm finally done." Julian looked up, his expression brightening. "There's my girl." "Rough night?" "The roughest." She leaned down to kiss him. "But I'm thinking about that vacation we talked about. After this week, I need it." A flicker of something, worry, crossed Julian's face. "About that?" Sophie opened the refrigerator, pulling out leftovers. "The Bahamas fund is almost there. Another month and we can book it. Sophie, sit down for a second." The tone in his voice made her pause. She sat across from him, suddenly alert despite her fatigue. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong," he said quickly. "Actually, something might be very right. I've been meaning to tell you about this opportunity." Sophie waited, a growing unease settling in her stomach. "Remember Aaron Wilson? From college? He started this incredible tech venture, virtual reality solutions for architectural design. It's going to revolutionize the industry." "Okay," Sophie said slowly. "And I invested in it. He needed capital fast, and the return potential is massive." Sophie felt cold. "Invested? How much?" Julian didn't meet her eyes. "I had to move quickly. These opportunities don't wait." "Julian, how much?" He took a breath. "Most of our savings." The world seemed to tilt beneath her. "Most? Define most." "About 90%. Sophie's mind raced to their account. Over $80,000 painstakingly saved over years of extra shifts and careful budgeting. "You took our money, our dream fund, our future, and gave it to Aaron? Without discussing it with me?" Her voice remained quiet, but a tremor ran through it. "Invested it," Julian corrected. "This is going to pay off, Sophie. Aaron's prototype already has interest from 3 major firms." Sophie stood, steadying herself against the counter. "Show me the paperwork. The agreement, the terms." Julian's hesitation told her everything. "There's no paperwork, is there?" she whispered. "You just transferred our life savings to your friend on a promise." "It's not like that. Aaron and I go way back. This is going to work out." Sophie checked their joint account on her phone. The balance stared back at her. 7,843.12. 5 years of dreams nearly gone. She looked at Julian, this man she thought she knew completely, and saw a stranger. "I need to sleep," she said finally. "We'll talk about this when I can think clearly." But as she lay in their bed, Julian sighed empty as he remained downstairs. Sophie knew sleep wouldn't come. Instead, she stared at the ceiling, wondering how the foundation of trust they'd built could crumble so completely with a single bank transfer. Tomorrow she would call Aaron Wilson herself. But tonight, she allowed herself to feel the full weight of Julian's betrayal, tears silently tracking down her face as the first light of dawn crept through their bedroom window. Broken foundations. The cafe was busier than Sophie expected for a Tuesday afternoon. She'd chosen a public place deliberately, somewhere neutral, somewhere she could leave if emotions ran too high. She spotted Aaron Wilson immediately. He looked just as she remembered from Julian's college graduation photos, though his hair was shorter now, his face more angular with age. "Sophie," he said, standing as she approached. "Thank you for meeting me." She sat across from him, hands wrapped around her coffee mug for stability. "I'm not here for pleasantries, Aaron. I want to know what's happening with my money." Aaron's expression fell. "Your money?" "Julian told me it was his investment capital. He said you both had discussed it." "Well, he lied," Sophie said flatly. "That was our joint savings. 5 years of work, gone without my knowledge or consent." Aaron paled. "I had no idea. Julian presented himself as an angel investor. He said he'd been following my work for years." "And you didn't think to get proper paperwork? For that amount of money?" "We have paperwork," Aaron said quickly, reaching for his messenger bag. "But it's all in Julian's name. He's listed as the sole investor." Sophie examined the documents Aaron handed her. There it was, Julian's signature dated 3 weeks ago. The investment terms were shockingly favorable to Aaron's company, with minimal protections for Julian. "This is a terrible deal," she said finally. "Even if your company succeeds, the return structure is delayed for years." Aaron looked genuinely uncomfortable. Julian said he believed in the long-term vision. "What exactly does your company do?" In plain English, Aaron spent the next 10 minutes explaining his virtual reality platform for architectural visualization. Despite her anger, Sophie had to admit the concept was innovative. "How much of the money have you spent already?" she asked. "About 30%. Mostly on specialized equipment and hiring 2 developers." Sophie nodded slowly. "I want regular updates on how every dollar is being used. And I want my name added to any documentation moving forward." Aaron hesitated. "Legally, the agreement is with Julian." "I'm not sure I can." "Then I'll involve lawyers," Sophie interrupted. "I never consented to this investment, and I'm prepared to fight it." "I don't want trouble," Aaron said quickly. "I'll figure something out." As they finished their meeting, Sophie felt a hollow victory. She had asserted herself, but the money was still gone, her trust in Julian still shattered. At home, Julian was waiting. "You met with Aaron," he said. "Not a question." "You should have told me you were going behind my back," Sophie replied. "At least then I would have known who you really are." "I was trying to secure our future," Julian insisted. "Aaron's company could be worth millions." "It could also be worth nothing," Sophie countered. "And that wasn't your decision to make alone. We built those savings together." Julian reached for her hand, but Sophie pulled away. "I need some space," she said. "I'm staying at May's for a few days." "Sophie, please." "I trusted you with everything, Julian. My heart, my future, my financial security. And you gambled it all without a second thought." As she packed a small bag, Sophie's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "It's Gabriel Torres," the message read. "Aaron's business partner. I heard what happened with your investment. I think I can help recover some of your money. Can we meet?" Sophie stared at the message. She hadn't known Aaron had a partner. With nothing left to lose, she typed a reply. "Tomorrow, 1 p.m., same cafe." She left without looking back at Julian, the weight of their broken foundation heavy on her shoulders. Choosing trust. Again, spring came to Denver with unexpected warmth. Sophie's apartment balcony burst with container gardens, herbs for cooking, flowers for color. 6 months had passed since Julian's betrayal, and her life had transformed in ways she couldn't have imagined. The startup was thriving. Their medical visualization platform had caught the attention of 3 major hospital groups, and a seed funding round had returned Sophie's initial investment with interest. Her consulting role had expanded to part-time employment, allowing her to reduce her nursing hours and focus on the business. "We need to celebrate," Gabriel announced one Friday afternoon, after they'd signed their biggest contract yet. "The whole team. Dinner at Avanti, my treat." Sophie smiled, watching him high-five Aaron across the office. Gabriel's enthusiasm was contagious, his leadership style a perfect balance of ambition and caution. Over months of working closely together, their professional relationship had deepened into friendship and, lately, something more, something neither had acknowledged aloud. That evening, surrounded by their small but mighty team, Sophie felt a sense of belonging she'd almost forgotten was possible. After dinner, as the others headed to a nearby bar, Gabriel offered to walk her home. Denver's skyline glittered against the night sky as they strolled through the quiet streets, their conversation flowing easily from work to books to childhood memories. "I never thanked you properly," Sophie said as they approached her building, "for stepping in that day, for giving me a chance to reclaim what was taken." Gabriel shook his head. "You earned everything you've achieved. I just opened a door." They paused at the entrance to her apartment complex, the moment weighted with possibility. "Would you like to come up for coffee?" Sophie asked, her heart quickening. Gabriel's dark eyes searched hers. "Are you sure?" "There's no rush, Sophie. I'm not going anywhere." The consideration, in his words, his awareness of her recent wounds, only confirmed what she already knew. "I'm sure," she said simply. Her apartment reflected the new Sophie, organized but creative, practical but warm. Gabriel moved through the space with appreciation, studying her bookshelves, complimenting her plants. "You've built something beautiful here," he observed. "From scratch," she agreed, handing him a mug of coffee. Their fingers brushed, the contact sending a pleasant shiver through her. They settled on her small sofa, the city lights twinkling through the window. Gabriel set his mug down carefully. "There's something I need to tell you," he said. "Something I should have mentioned earlier." Sophie tensed. "What is it?" "I knew Julian before all this happened. Not well, but we'd met at industry events. When Aaron told me about the investment, I recognized the name." "Why didn't you say anything?" Gabriel sighed. "At first, I was focused on fixing the financial mess. Then, as I got to know you, I didn't want to complicate things." He met her gaze. "I never expected to feel this way about you, Sophie." She considered his confession. Once such an omission might have felt like another betrayal. Now she recognized it as human, complicated, imperfect, but ultimately honest. "What way do you feel?" she asked softly. Instead of answering with words, Gabriel leaned forward, his hand gently cupping her face. The kiss was tentative at first, a question rather than a demand. Sophie answered by drawing closer, deepening the connection. When they finally separated, both slightly breathless, Gabriel rested his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that for months." "Me too," she admitted. They talked until dawn, about their fears, their hopes, the business, and the careful path forward. Unlike the whirlwind romance she'd had with Julian, this felt measured, intentional, built on a foundation of mutual respect. 2 weeks later, Sophie met Julian for coffee to finalize their divorce paperwork. He looked tired but resigned. "So it's really over," he said, signing the last document. Sophie nodded. "It is, but I don't regret our marriage, Julian. I learned what I need in a partner, what I deserve. And Gabriel gives you that?" There was no bitterness in the question, just curiosity. "He values my opinion. He sees me as an equal." "Yes, that matters to me," Julian nodded slowly. "I'm happy for you, Sophie." "Really?" As she walked away, Sophie felt the final weight lift from her shoulders. The betrayal that had once seemed like an ending had become a beginning, a painful but necessary redirection toward the life she was meant to build. That evening, Gabriel arrived at her door with takeout and a small wrapped package. "What's this?" Sophie asked, accepting the gift. Open it. Inside was a delicate silver key on a chain. It's symbolic, Gabriel explained. A key to the office. You're not just a consultant anymore, you're a full partner. We've updated all the paperwork. Sophie blinked back unexpected tears. Thank you for believing in me. I didn't just believe in you, Gabriel said, drawing her close. I learned from you. Your resilience, your willingness to start again. It's extraordinary. Later, curled together on her sofa, Sophie reflected on the journey of the past 6 months. The life savings she'd lost had been recovered and multiplied. The trust she'd thought permanently broken had been rebuilt. Not with the person who broke it, but with someone who understood its value. What are you thinking about? Gabriel murmured against her hair. Sophie smiled, her fingers entwined with his. About foundations, and how sometimes you have to let the weak ones crumble to build something stronger in their place. As Denver's lights twinkled outside her window, Sophie knew that the painful collapse of her marriage had cleared the way for something more solid, a partnership based on genuine respect, shared goals, and the kind of trust that grows stronger with each challenge overcome. She had lost her savings, but found herself, and in the end, that made all the difference.